Well, hello and welcome to the Dream Highway Podcast. The Dream Highway Podcast is here to inspire you to go after your dreams and, most importantly, make the most of the journey every step of the way. This is episode 72, and I'm your host, Steve Pederson. My guest today is none other than the world famous Jeff Marconette Jr. Jeff, aka the international Make Every Second Count speaker, is a transformational speaker, author, coach, a youth mentor, and the host of Make Every Second Count Live on Facebook and YouTube. His life was nearly ended at the young age of 17 while waiting to turn at a green light. After 20 years of recovery, which he still continues today, he now sees why it's so important to make every second count. Jeff, welcome to the Dream Highway Podcast. We should have some like intro music for you.
Yeah, man. No, it is fantastic to be here. And I want to inspire and impact the world to help everybody live their dreams and live them now.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Live them now. There's no better time than the present, right?
No.
Yeah. You know what, Jeff, let's do this. Because this is so fascinating to me. Before we get, because we want to get into your story and I want to learn a little bit about what that was like, but I'm curious, before you had this life-altering accident at the age of 17, what were your dreams then, like pre-accident?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So before my accident, I was into a lot of sports. And
Okay.
in fact, I played soccer, I played baseball, I played football, I played basketball, I rode BMX, I did all kinds of things. You see, if I could be outside and doing something, that so beats what kids do now. Like sit there on their phones like, oh my gosh. But so my dreams were basically to probably couch surf from friends to friends across the country and ride BMX at skate parks all my life. And if that didn't work out, I was going to probably join one of the armed services and get my education. I wanted to be an engineer of some sort and go from there.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, BMX, explain a little bit, just in case there's somebody out there who might not know exactly what BMX is.
Well, it's on a 20-inch bike and you ride your bike like over jumps and on ramps and grind rails and do all kinds of stupid stuff.
Sure, yeah. It sounds like one of those kind of extreme sports, right?
Yeah, it is one of the extreme sports.
Okay. And would you say you were pretty good at it?
Yes, I would.
Okay, excellent. And do you have any videotape of you?
No, but I do have some pictures.
Okay. Man, that would be fun to see. Okay, so you were a teenager, you were into a lot of athletic kind of stuff, which I was definitely my plan when I was a young kid was I was going to be a professional baseball player, until
Not a musician.
And I know that kind of comes as a surprise to a lot of people, but yeah, before I started getting interested in music, I actually wanted to be a professional baseball player. And I had a heart condition. The doctor discovered a heart condition. It wasn't super serious, but it was serious enough at the time where he said I had to stop playing. So that kind of like, that put the kibosh on my dreams of being a ball player. So you're going along with these dreams, and it's kind of interesting, when you think about it, that you were involved in all these extreme sports where you would think that's where an accident would happen, but that wasn't the case. And so tell us a little bit about this, the the day of the, this accident, and what was kind of going through your mind? Because I know a lot of people haven't been in an accident like that. And
Yeah. Well, the day of was like any other. I mean, I woke up and it was January 7th in Ohio.
mm,
So, as you can imagine, it was not too warm. It was kind of snowy, and
sure.
we probably shouldn't have had school that day, but
Mm,
we did. Now, my dad went out that morning and cleaned off my car. So I was one of those, I wouldn't say lazy 17-year-olds, but I was one of those 17-year-olds that got up and rolled out of bed and went to eat breakfast, and then I would go jump in the shower and do things quick. I didn't really have time to clean my car. So
mm,
I'm lucky enough that my dad cleaned my car, and I went to school no problem in the morning and went through all my morning classes, and then I had open lunch. And as I was heading to open lunch, I was sitting at a green light, and a friend behind me actually honked at me to
mm,
tell me the light was green. Now, I don't know about you, Steve, but I have a lot of people that like to mess with me, like to
mm,
make me look stupid.
mm,
So I figured he might be trying to get me to run the red light.
mm.
But so I looked up and noticed the light was green. And without looking either way, I pulled forward. Big mistake.
Mm. Yeah.
So when I pulled out into that intersection, a semi truck
Mm,
decided to run the red light.
mm,
Now they call these different things in different countries. I have noticed that in South America they call them container trucks. In England and Europe, and then even in Africa they call them lorries or just trucks. And but here we call them semi trucks, but
mm.
18-wheel trucks if
Yeah, an
you're
18 wheeler.
confused. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh no. When I was a little kid, my family made a trip down to Tennessee from Minnesota, and so we saw a lot of 18 wheelers on the road. And this was in the, gosh, probably the mid 70s. And
Dang, I
so
wasn't even born yet.
yeah. And are you familiar with the movie Smokey and the Bandit?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was kind of big at that time. And so,
Yeah.
all these 18 wheelers did really cool things with their trucks. And so what I did was after we got home is I would tape two 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper together, and I would draw 18 wheeler trucks on there with all the fancy. So yeah, man, I know we're talking some big stuff here.
Yeah. And as
And
soon as
what kind of car were you
oh,
driving?
I was driving a 1992 Honda Accord LX with the rims and the tinted windows and all kinds of stuff on that car
Sure.
that I no longer have on my car today. But
I can imagine.
yeah, it was fun at that age.
Sure. Yeah. But even still, the Honda Accord LX in that year, it was not a real big car, right?
No,
No.
no, it
So you're
wasn't.
talking about a relatively small car going up against an 18 wheeler.
Yes. Now
Yeah.
I am lucky though for the A pillar, which is the pillar between the doors on the car, I think, because you see, I had my seat laid back so far that when I went back in the seat, my head hit that A pillar or the B pillar. I don't know which pillar, but so it hit that pillar, and that pillar kind of absorbed most of the semi.
Mm, wow. And so
So
you were hit sort of broadsided on the driver's side.
yes, I'm
Sure.
driver's side door.
Mm,
And
mercy.
from that accident, I was knocked unconscious right away. So
Hmm.
I really don't have any memory of the morning of the accident through about 2.5 months after the accident. Now,
Wow.
um, I had a broken neck, a fractured jaw, which I had a halo on for the broken neck. And then I had my jaw wired shut. I
Mm.
had 2 fractured ribs, a punctured lung, and a ruptured spleen. Now I had a tube in through my stomach to help me eat because had my jaw wired shut. I had a tube in through my side to reinflate my lung, and I had a tube in through my neck called a tracheotomy, and that was to help me breathe. And I was actually on a ventilator for a few days.
Mm.
Now, my worst injury was one that nobody can see. And my worst injury is one that still affects me today. It makes it difficult to walk, it makes it difficult to talk. As you notice, I'm kind of labored when I talk some,
Mm.
and I talk a little slow. I talk a little slow, and that's all because of my traumatic brain injury. And I spent 2.5 months in a coma from that.
Man.
Yeah. And then 3.5 in the hospital from the wreck.
Wow. And so when you first started coming to and realizing what had happened, I'm sure you had a lot of questions and a lot of doubts and a lot of fears.
Yeah. When I first came out, when I first reached stage, I think 4 in a coma, which is a state of confusion, and you're actually kind of aware, but you're confused. I was in the hospital one day with my sister, and my sister would push me around in my wheelchair all the time. So I was not in my bed all the time. But I guess when we got back to the room, I was making weird noises and she didn't know what was wrong. And I she came around front and looked at me, and I guess I was bawling.
Mm.
And I, she kind of freaked out and ran out to got nurses and doctors and brought them all in, and they just stood around and were smiling.
They were
And
smiling. That's unusual.
and she was freaking out. She didn't get it.
Yeah.
She's like, "Why are you guys all just smiling? I'm losing it here."
Yeah.
She's like, "What's wrong with him?" And they told her, "Well, this is a stage we've been waiting for.
Mm.
This is the stage where he is much more likely to come out of the coma completely once he
Mm.
reaches this stage."
Mm.
And he's just confused right now. He has no idea what's going on. And I couldn't talk, so it was kind of, I couldn't ask questions, and
Mm.
my parents weren't there, and I had my sister, but then I had a bunch of strange people in white
Yeah.
clothes around me, and I'm like,
What in the world?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's so crazy. I mean, even to try to imagine just that whole, it sounds like a very slow process of waking up
Yeah, a
Yeah.
coma's not like what you see on TV. You don't just wake up one day and be like, "Hey, I want a hamburger." It don't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so it took a while. And you said you weren't really able to speak. So what did you eventually like, did they give you like a pen and paper to write stuff down, or how did the
Well,
communication start?
that is funny. So I had my arms were locked up like this,
Okay.
and I couldn't take them down. They had gone through what they call atrophy, and
Yeah.
they locked up. And so they taught me eventually to get my one arm down, which was my left arm, and they taught me one finger for yes, two fingers for no.
Okay.
So they would just kind of talk to me that way. Like, what are you doing today? Are you good? Yes.
Hmm.
And then eventually I got to the point that I was able to talk over my trach. And people aren't really supposed to be able to do that, but I did that anyways. I was strong-willed enough that I was gonna do it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. So things, I'm sure, developed slowly, and then at what point did you sort of get like did the thought go through your mind like, well, I guess there goes my BMX career, or was there other things that were?
No,
Yeah.
actually, that's kind of funny. So, while in the hospital, I I was always planning on getting back on my bike. I was
Mm,
always planning that I would be out there riding again because that was my passion.
sure.
And it
Yeah.
was just something I was going to do because I wanted to. And nobody was going to tell me that I wasn't going to. But I, hang on, sorry.
Got a sneeze coming.
Yeah.
Jeff and I were talking about sneezes earlier. And he said, I
Yeah,
hate
it's
sneezing. And I was
gone.
like, the only thing that's worse than sneezing is what just happened, is
Yeah.
almost sneezing.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
So,
so you were
I,
like, hey, nobody's going to tell me I'm not going to ride again. I will ride again. Right.
yeah. And then I got out of the hospital and I was going to outpatient rehab at the hospital. And I actually have a friend that made training wheels, heavy duty training wheels for my bike.
Mm,
And we brought it down to therapy, and they're like, well, we don't think this is gonna work, but we're down to let you try. And it was funny because from what I know, I am the only person to ever ride my bike in therapy at Miami Valley Hospital in Dayton, Ohio to this day.
there you go.
Now I rode it down the hallway and back, and I actually did it very well. And it was funny because I couldn't walk. At
Hmm.
this time, I was still using a walker. And for the most part, I was riding in a wheelchair. But when I did get up, I would get up with my walker and use that to walk. And I rode a bike down the hallway. They didn't understand that,
Yeah, I'll bet.
but it was just something that was ingrained in me and I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once I got out of the hospital and went home and got to back to life, as they say, I didn't really ride much.
Mm-hmm.
While I could, it was extremely sketchy. And that caused me depression for a while.
I'll bet.
And that caused me to question why I was here and stuff like that. And eventually, after I dealt with all that for a while, I realized that while I changed and my dreams hadn't, my dreams had to change with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand that at first. I just wanted to go back to the same dreams that I had before the accident, and that doesn't work.
Yeah. Wow.
So then I got to a point where I was doing Herbalife, and I was an Herbalife independent distributor. And I would go to the trainings all the time, and I would absolutely fall in love when I heard the people speaking in the motivational section every day.
Mm.
And I was like, I could see myself up there doing that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Something obviously I'm thinking, well, yeah, first of all, I was going to say, why Herbalife? Was it just, hey, here's something to try, or was there something about it that, kind of made you go that route?
Well, I did Herbalife because it worked for me.
Okay. And this was
And
post accident, right?
yes, I
Okay.
lost like 42 pounds, cut my body fat in half, added like 20 pounds of muscle, and I felt amazing. And that's why I stuck with Herbalife.
Okay. That's amazing. And then when you heard these people speaking, the sort of the motivational speakers, do you think that's something that would have sort of inspired you before you had the accident? No,
No,
right?
not at all. I have no idea why, but it just hit me. And Les Brown has a thing now that he says that when he would see people speaking on stage, he was like, well, I can do that. And this is exactly what happened to me. But when he would be walking out to get in the car after the event, his thoughts would all creep up like, well, how are you going to do that? You have no corporate training, you have no experience, you have no college degree. People aren't going to listen to you. So I struggled with that.
Sure.
And I kind of just said, well, that's not for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can imagine, like with Les Brown. I mean, he had the obstacle for him was something about education, right? Like they said, I
Yeah,
forget
he
what
had
it's hard to say what it was he had, but he had some kind of impediment or something that slowed, something that was a big obstacle for him.
Well,
was that inspiring for you?
This word isn't PC at all, but it's like you can be educated, but you're mentally retarded.
Sure.
So that's what the diagnosis was for him.
Got it. And were you aware of that? And if so, was that something that inspired you, or were you like, my situation is different. Like I'm even having a problem talking like that. I would imagine for a lot of aspiring speakers, that would be a huge obstacle to overcome. Like, I've got to be able to speak, right?
Actually, that wasn't the biggest thing for me. The biggest thing for me was getting out there and doing it, or how to get started. And eventually I ran into a guy named Roland Manning that actually knows Les Brown.
Okay.
And he told me about this other guy named Dr. Reuben West. And he told me that, hey, this guy is going to be having an event in Bloomington, Illinois, and it's going to be amazing. He's going to teach people how to be motivational speakers and how to get started with that. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty awesome. I appreciate you telling me about that, but I've already been talking to him for like a week. I'm planning on being at that event. And
There you go.
he was kind of surprised. But before that event, like on Tuesday, when I was leaving on Friday to go to Illinois, I had a strange pain right here in my side. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I went to the ER and it was appendicitis.
Oh
and
my
I had to
gosh.
have emergency surgery on that to get my appendix out.
Oh,
and I asked him after the surgery, are you gonna let me go to this event? This event is where my life is going to start.
Yeah.
He's like, well, are you driving? No, I'm flying. She's like, I'm sorry, but no, you're not gonna be able to go. And so I was like, gosh. So I went home and sent Dr. West a message, told him that I had appendicitis and I had to get my appendix removed. And he said, well, that's no problem. We'll just save your ticket for the next time.
Okay, that was great.
And so he said he was going to do that. And then like 6 months later, I found out that he was having another event in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, whoa, this is my time.
This is it.
And I sent him a message. And now he has told me since then that he didn't expect to ever hear from me again after that first one. But he did. And I ended up going down to Georgia, ended up having the best time of my life. And
it's amazing. Was that like kind of the first event of that type that you had gone to?
Yeah. And
yeah.
I actually won an award at that event. And
wow,
it was called Sharing Your Message, or yeah, I think Sharing Your Message award. And I was really surprised.
Yeah.
And we put a video up online, and all the responses, they were absolutely amazing. But from that, I found out that I was gonna be in this book. I was going to have 2 chapters in a book, and I was going to be able to tell my story. You know how amazing that was?
Yeah, that's super exciting, man.
So this event really did get my whole life started.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Sounds like an instant trajectory. Sounds like you were shot out of a cannon or something like that for you towards your life's destination. That's amazing. So, and I'm assuming at that event, you spoke about your accident. You spoke about the, just the adversity that you had to overcome with that. And now your dream is to, well, tell us a little bit about your dream and kind of the amazing things that you're seeing on your journey now.
Well, my dream now is I've written a journal that's called Make Every Second Count, a 1,500-hour journal. and it is designed for students 11 through 19 years of age to help them get their perspective, their mindset right, because the suicide rate for kids 15 to 19 is like the second leading cause of death for them.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
I think that is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for whatever reason, kids now or adolescents now are not raised with the correct foundational skills. Now, I'm not blaming anyone for that, but times are hard, I understand. But I'm thinking if we can help them develop some of these foundational skills, their mindset will be more resilient and they will be able to take more. They will be able, I mean, and they shouldn't have to take more, but they're gonna have to. I mean, it's the world today.
Yeah.
And it
Wow.
might not be fair. I understand that, but they need the tools that they can actually thrive while going through something instead of
Sure.
just thinking about ending everything.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more specifically about like how the journal helps achieve that for these kids.
Well, the journal actually, it's a 9-week journal. That's why it's called 1500 hours. And it goes through different things on every page. And it like goes from being determined to having a mindset of gratitude, having perspective, and then it tells stories about to highlight that and to reinforce that. And then they are asked a question about their life, and it helps them to reflect and put the story into action of in their life. And then they can see that at the end that there's a reinforcing activity to help them get that stuff even more. So it's a pretty awesome book. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
And I really think that everybody should read it. I don't think that it will only work for kids of that age. I think it will work for anyone.
Yeah. It sounds incredible. It sounds amazing. And I'm wondering, do you have any stories to share of people, like just feedback from kids that have used it? Anyone that stands out in particular at all?
Well, I know like I've had this one kid that was being bullied at school, and in fact he was kind of a bully at times to certain people too. And I put him through all the programs and stuff in the book, and he like sees everything differently now. And he's going through school much easier, and he's happier now. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, because it validated what I already knew, that the book will truly work.
That's incredible. I love it. And man, so it's such incredibly fulfilling work that you're doing. I mean, I'm sure you never would have imagined doing something like this at this kind of a level. Where do you see, your dreams going to next?
Well, that's kind of funny because actually we are recording this on, is it Monday?
Monday, the November 8th. Yeah.
All right. I am leaving this weekend on Saturday, November dang it, if I could get my, here, November
13th.
13th, to go to Nairobi, Kenya, where I will be speaking at an event called Live Your Best Life Nairobi. So I am definitely pumped up about that. I'm kind of nervous about the 2 9-hour flights to get there.
Sure.
But I am pumped up that I'm going to be in Africa. I mean, we're going on a 3-day safari while I'm there too.
Oh my gosh.
Where else can you see lions and giraffes and elephants and hyenas and tigers? Or wait, they don't have tigers. They have lions though.
Yeah.
But
in their natural habitat.
Yeah, in their natural habitat where you have to worry about them eating you. You're not the top of the food chain.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's incredible, man. You've taken this event that most people would not have survived. And for whatever reason, you survived. And now that has put your life in a whole different perspective. I would imagine most 17-year-olds don't really think too much about how, oh, my life could be over like the snap of a finger,
Yeah, it's so true. I do this program at the hospital where I was now it's a court appointed program for teens and young adults to go through when they've been convicted of like something like speeding, running stop signs, running stoplights, anything that is a danger to them. And
Sure.
I go through like, guys, look, you're 16.
Yeah.
Your life is just beginning. Whatever you're going through now, it's not going to matter in 5 years because you're 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't deal with it by doing something that's going to last forever when this problem isn't going to last forever. It's a temporary thing.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, I was literally just having the same conversation with my daughter just the other day, and it wasn't not super serious, what she was dealing with, but just some stuff she was dealing with, and I was like, man, it's just so unfair, because I can look back now that I'm 53 years old, and I can look back and say, man, you're gonna get through this. You're gonna get through this, but when that's only as long as you've lived is 16, 17 years old, it's like that's your entire world and that's your entire experience. And I think even as we get older, I was just talking with my coach today about, like, last week when we had our coaching call, I was like, I had this wrong, that like there was just an unbelievable amount of insane stuff going on in my life. And our call today, I was like, oh yeah, all that stuff we talked about, it's all past. It's like a week later, he's like, yeah, that's usually what happens. Give it, for me, usually it's like, yeah, just sleep on it, you'll feel different tomorrow.
It's so true that, like Jim Rohn says, for things to change, we have to change. For things to get better, we have to get better. And that is, it's so true. Because when I realized that, everything changed. Because I changed.
And if Jeff can change, man,
so can you.
Yeah, especially under those circumstances, right? Yeah. Well, Jeff, this has been incredible, man. You have an incredible story. It's so inspiring, just to hear, it was just like, after coming out of a coma, well, of course I want to get back on my bike and, and ride. What else would I want to do? But just adapting, to whatever life throws your way, and to find a different calling, a different purpose, to adapt your dreams. We all have to, I think we all do that regardless of whatever the circumstances were. Right? Like you and I were talking earlier, my dream when I was a little kid was to be a baseball player. That didn't materialize, but what happened, the things that made that shift for me turned me into a different direction. So I guess the point is, our dreams can change, but just remaining a dreamer, being a dreamer, always continuing to dream, that's the important thing, whatever the specific dream is, right?
Yeah, that's so powerful to know. And I mean, I have dreams, like I want to speak on every continent in the world. I want, and I've already done South America, I've done North America, of course I've done North America, and I've done Africa. So I'm almost halfway.
Almost there, yeah. And then maybe your last one will be talking to the penguins down in the Arctic.
Oh, I'm a member Anytime Fitness, and Anytime Fitness actually has a gym in Antarctica, and I thought that I would love to go there and just work out one time.
Yeah, there you go. And maybe you could do a motivational session with the employees there, or the people that go there.
Yeah,
hey, we've got, oh dude, that's an awesome dream, and it's a very specific one. And I think that's great to have very specific goals, and to have that sort of thermometer of, hey, this is how far I've gone to reach my goal. I'm 3/7 of the way there. So way to go, man. I love it. So you've got a little something to share with the audience, right?
Yeah, I do. So if you guys want, I will be nice here, and you can go to my website, and you can go to my journal section on my website, and you can actually download the first 7 days of my journal for free. So once you go through this, you will get an email, and then you can purchase the book if it was valuable to you. If it wasn't valuable to you, don't worry about it. Just move on.
There you go. Love it. I love it. Okay, well, I'll make sure I put that link in the show notes so people can easily access that. The show notes you can find at thedreamhighway.com/72. That's thedreamhighway.com, and then the number, or slash, and the number 72. We'll have all the links to Jeff's website, his free gift, all the groovy ways that you can connect with Jeff. I'm sure he would love to have a conversation with you if you're interested in getting inspired to go after your dreams and overcome the crazy obstacles that you might be facing. But Jeff, any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I think I'll just leave you with this. You have to make every second count. Why? Because you never know when the seconds will run out on your one life.
Good stuff. Love it. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for joining me here on the Dream Highway podcast. Thanks for all the listeners, and we'll catch you next time on the Dream Highway. Take care.